Hey, if this is your first time here, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a like right now. Seriously, your support keeps this channel alive. It allows me to continue sharing real life stories, stories filled with emotion, suspense, and lessons that remind us just how unpredictable life can truly be. And today, today's story isn't just any story. It starts on one of those painfully ordinary, forgettable days. The kind of day where you're convinced that nothing interesting could ever happen. But life has a way of sneaking in at the most unexpected moment, of flipping the ordinary into something unforgettable. This is the story of a quiet evening that changed everything, not with loud drama or chaos, but in a way that quietly reshaped my family, my perspective, and the way I understand the moments we often overlook. The evening was soft, almost gentle, painted in fading oranges and golds as the sun prepared to bow out. I had just returned from a long, exhausting run, the kind where your legs feel like heavy weights, lungs burning, every muscle screaming for relief. But strangely, your mind feels lighter than ever. Sweat dripped down my face. My shirt clung to me, drenched. I could only think of one thing: a hot shower, a moment to let the world melt away. When I stepped inside, I immediately noticed something. A subtle quiet. Not the calm, peaceful kind of quiet. No. This was different, hollow, slightly off. It made me pause in the doorway without realizing it. My aunt and cousin were at home. That wasn't unusual, but the emptiness of the house felt heavier than usual. Ever since my uncle passed away 3 years ago, this home had changed. Once it had been a life full of chatter, laughter, clanging pots in the kitchen, and silly arguments about what to eat for dinner. Now the volume seemed muted, life turned down like someone had pressed a hidden button. We all tried to adjust. I told myself we were doing fine, but deep inside, I knew something was missing. Still, like always, I brushed it off, tossed my running clothes aside, grabbed a towel, and headed for the shower. As soon as the warm water hit my skin, the world slowed. Steam curled around me like a soft, invisible blanket, and for a few moments, I felt untouchable. Stress melted. Thoughts that had been nagging all day dissolved. Memories, worries, fears, everything that usually crept in when I let my guard down simply washed away. No sounds from outside. No doors opening, no background chatter. Just me, the steady rhythm of the water, and a silence that felt like it belonged to me alone. For a few precious minutes, it seemed the world had paused just for me. If only I had known what was waiting outside that bathroom door. Still wrapped in my towel, I stepped out, assuming the house was empty. But the second I walked into the family room, everything froze. There they were. My aunt and my cousin, sitting side by side on the sofa, looking directly at me. My heart jumped straight into my throat. Heat rushed to my face, not from embarrassment in the usual sense, but from shock. The sudden realization that I wasn't alone, that someone had seen me at my most unprepared, hit me like a wave. There's a difference between being physically exposed and being emotionally unprepared. In that moment, I felt both: vulnerable, awkward, uncertain. I muttered something, some half-formed apology that I don't even remember, grabbed my towel, and practically stumbled into my room, shutting the door behind me, leaning against the door. Trying to calm my racing thoughts, I told myself, it's nothing. They'll forget. I'll forget. But life has a way of holding on to moments that refuse to be forgotten. In the following days, subtle changes began creeping in. A glance that lingered a second too long. A slight pause in my cousin's voice when she answered me. Tiny shifts that, individually, might have gone unnoticed, but together, they weighed on my mind. The awkwardness wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, persistent, like an invisible hum you can't turn off. Every replay of that moment in my head made me wonder, Why did this hit me so deeply? Why did it feel heavier than it should? Just when I thought I might escape the weight of that moment, life threw another twist. I was immersed in one of my favorite online games. Headphones on, lights low, completely absorbed in a world far from my own. The door opened. My cousin stepped in, smiling softly. That familiar teasing grin she always wore when mocking my gaming obsession. Everything on the surface seemed normal. She joked. She laughed. She sat next to me, pointing at the screen, asking questions. But beneath it all, something felt different. Not romantic, not inappropriate, just a quiet, lingering tension neither of us knew how to address. There are moments when people who grew up together can feel like strangers for a split second. That night was one of those moments. Words felt heavier. Jokes carried weight, and we were both tiptoeing around an invisible wall neither of us knew how to break. Regular dinners began to feel slightly different. Conversations became shorter. Laughter felt forced. It wasn't anyone's fault. It wasn't hers. It wasn't mine. It was the ripple effect of one small, awkward moment layered on top of years of silent grief. Our home, already a place of quiet suffering, had been surviving, not truly living. The grief of losing my uncle 3 years ago had turned silence into habit, hiding emotions instead of expressing them. And life wasn't finished teaching us lessons yet. One evening, long after dinner, my aunt called me into the den. Her voice wasn't sharp, wasn't angry. It was soft, tired, carrying the weight of years. She didn't want to talk about the awkward towel incident. She wanted to talk about everything else, the grief, the loneliness, the quiet suffering we'd all silently endured. She spoke openly about losing her husband, about trying to stay strong for everyone, and how silence had slowly crept into our lives, not as healing, but as avoidance. Listening to her, a realization hit me. The awkward incident wasn't the cause of our disconnect. It was simply the spark that revealed it. We hadn't been communicating. We hadn't been supporting each other. We had been avoiding the very emotions and conversations we most needed. And sometimes life forces you to face what you've been avoiding. After that conversation, things began to change, not immediately, but slowly, subtly. My cousin and I started joking again. Dinner conversations grew longer. My aunt laughed more. We began reconnecting, sitting together instead of retreating to separate corners. The awkwardness didn't vanish, it transformed into understanding, into appreciation, into a new awareness. The house felt alive again, and I realized something profound. Sometimes, a small, uncomfortable moment becomes the gateway to deeper healing. It wasn't the towel incident that mattered, it was the light it shone on the issues we'd buried. Suddenly, we weren't just surviving anymore. We were rebuilding quietly, one moment at a time. Just when I thought life had settled into this new rhythm, something small but powerful happened. It wasn't dramatic, not a big confrontation or a life-changing event. It was quiet. My cousin, the same one who had shared that awkward moment with me days ago, came into the room with a soft, serious expression. She didn't say much at first, just sat across from me, her hands folded neatly in her lap, and waited. I could feel the air shift like the weight of unspoken words had finally found a place to land. And then she spoke. "Do you ever think about him?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I froze. My uncle? The man whose passing had changed the rhythm of this house, whose absence had filled our lives with subtle grief. It was a question I'd avoided, one I didn't know how to answer without cracking open a part of myself I'd been holding shut for years. "I do," I admitted finally, my voice shaky. Every day, sometimes without even realizing it. And then something amazing happened. We started talking, not the awkward tiptoed around kind of conversation, but real, honest, heartfelt words. We shared memories, laughed at moments that once made us cheer up, and even cried quietly together. For the first time in years, I felt like the house was breathing again, not just surviving. But alive. The next days were different. My aunt, who had carried years of silent grief, started smiling more freely. Laughter returned in small doses like sunlight peeking through clouds after a storm. Dinner no longer felt like a routine. We shared stories, discussed the little victories of our day, and even joked about silly things like we used to dot my cousin and I, who had tiptoed around each other after that awkward incident, began reconnecting in a way that felt natural. The invisible wall had been there, yes, but it had started to crumble, and I realized something truly profound. Sometimes life forces a pause, a moment so small it seems insignificant, yet it reveals everything we've been ignoring. That one awkward, shocking moment, the one I thought would only embarrass me, became the catalyst for healing. It's strange, isn't it? How life teaches us through the smallest incidents. A glance, a pause, a moment of vulnerability. It can shift everything we think we know about family, love, and connection. That evening reminded me that life isn't just about surviving. It's about being present, facing the moments that scare us, and having the courage to embrace honesty, even when it's uncomfortable. We often carry invisible weights, grief, regret, fear, or embarrassment. And it's not until something or someone forces those feelings into the light that real healing begins. So, what did I learn from that night, from that small, awkward moment, from the quiet grief in our home? I learned that awkward moments aren't disasters, they're signals. They reveal what we've been avoiding, what we've been silent about, and what truly matters. Grief is shared, not hidden. Pain becomes lighter when acknowledged, when spoken aloud with the people who care about you. Healing is gradual. It starts small, one conversation, one laugh, one shared memory, but it grows into something that restores life to even the quietest homes. And most importantly, I learned that life's ordinary days often carry the extraordinary lessons. That ordinary evening, which started like any other, ended up reminding me that love, understanding, and connection can be found in the smallest, most unexpected moments. If this story touched you, if it reminded you to treasure your family, face your emotions and embrace the small moments, then hit that like button. Share this video with someone who might need to hear this today. And don't forget to subscribe because there are so many more real life stories here that will move you, challenge you, and inspire you. Life is unpredictable, but sometimes it surprises us in the most beautiful ways. And that's a story worth sharing.